and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster online. I'm Lenore Bajar-Dukes. My pronouns are she and her, and I serve this community as your Director of Lifespan Faith Development. It is good to see you here on Zoom, to imagine those who are watching on Facebook or perhaps later on YouTube, and to know that we are held in a community that stretches across space and time. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this progressive spiritual community, where we come together to nourish the spirit, connect in love, and act for justice. At UUCL, as we like to refer to ourselves, love is our only doctrine, and service and justice are our most sacred prayers. So even as we pray in so many ways, we pray all together by striving to live lives in words and deeds that affirm that Black lives matter. And our doctrine of love has moved us to affirm for decades that love is divine and that love is what makes a family. So no matter who you are, no matter where you are from, who you love, what feelings you are carrying here today, how you experience and express gender in your body, know that you are welcome here. You are welcome to journey and grow with us. Because we gather here in a community of many ages, experiences, identities, backgrounds, because we know that we need one another. We know that we carry, each of us, an imperfect but precious piece of wisdom and truth, and that there is always more truth out there that can help us grow if we listen. So whether you believe in nature, love, God, science, some combination of all of these things, or whether you are content to just let the great mystery be, whether your truth is a different truth altogether, you are welcome here. We will continue to weave our beautiful tapestry of spiritual community together. And this morning, I have a special gratitude for the presence of anyone who is new here. We are so glad that you are taking this brave step of checking out the spiritual community. And we hope that you will feel connected to what goes on here. We hope you will find folks to chat with during one of our breakout rooms after the service, and we hope that you will get to connect with us, so we will get to meet you at one of our many events, in person, outdoors, or virtually. And if you'd like to find out more info about what goes on here, we really encourage you to sign up for our newsletter, the Love Letter, by visiting our website. And I now invite us to enter into this sacred space as a member family of May, Cole, Michelle, and Graham Capobianco join me in lighting our chalice, this beloved symbol of our Unitarian Universalist movement. Thank you to the Capobianco family. And since today is a worship service for all ages, I invite you to join along to the motions often used in children's worship. You ready? We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is a church of open minds. This is a church of helping hands. This is a church of loving hearts. And let's all join on Zoom together like this. Together, we work together for peace and friendship and justice in our world.
Thank you so much for lighting our chalice for us this morning. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am Reverend Israel. I'm the minister of this congregation. I use he, him for pronouns, and it's my pleasure to welcome all of you to this virtual community, this virtual sacred space that we share on this beautiful, bright morning. I invite you all now to take a moment to look around in our virtual space here, look around, see who you're with, and take a moment to wave to each other, to enter into one another's presence and know that we are learning and growing and striving for more love and more justice together. We are doing this together. And that's what makes it a beautiful and truly sacred act. So whether this is your first time or 500th time or whatever, welcome to this space, and you are needed and loved and seen and a part of this community. We are here in this hour that we spend together, hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, however long it is. This hour that we spend together, we call worship. And that's really just a fancy religious way of saying that we take the time to notice and to think about what is most important in this journey that we call life. This morning, I want us to take some time to think about the complex truths of what it means to be alive today. We come together because life is complex and complicated. Life is beautiful and painful, joyful and sorrowful, and everything that lies in between. I say some version of that every week. If things were simple and easy and uncomplicated and always happy and always joyful, I suspect that we might not have quite as many people here every week. We come here, I think, because life is complicated and because we need a space to make sense of all of that stuff. Here on this day, as we come upon the 400th anniversary of the celebration of the first Thanksgiving, we need to unravel that complexity a little bit. Unravel the complexity of what that celebration meant and still means for us as a nation. So we come together to unravel and uncover and make sense of the complex truth of this holiday that we call Thanksgiving. And here we can hold space for the complexity and truth of the holiday itself, of the beauty and the pain that lies in the truth of what Thanksgiving is. The complex truth of a holiday, of a celebration, of an observance that is based on a myth that is perpetuated this time of year, a myth that is based, deeply rooted and seated in systemic violence and pain and suffering. So we come here to tell the truth about this myth and to commit ourselves about what we are going to do about it. We come together to tell the truth about this myth, not to make ourselves or anyone feel bad or feel ashamed or guilty, but we do it out of love. We tell the truth out of love. And at the same time, out of love, we know that we can hold space here in this place for gratitude and connection and the love that already is in our lives as well. So my hope for us this morning as we worship together is that we will discover that it is a radical act to hold space for joy and gratitude, even when there are difficult truths in the world. It might be difficult to be both thankful and sorrowful at the same time. But such, my friends, is the complexity of life. Sometimes joy and sorrow come together and live together. So together today, we grieve. And together, we are grateful. And may our hearts be wide and deep and open together. May they be connected. And may we find the space to hold all of it together for all of it that is always around us. I remind us one more time that we are here to be lifted and held in love. We are here to listen to love. We are here to look around at all that is amongst us, the trees and the sky and life itself, to find the grace and love and beauty and peace and pain and sorrow and all of it. Reveal, and may all of it reveal to us that at the core, we are all one, and we got to do something about it. Let us worship together.
Thanks, Carl. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us that we are here to be lifted in love. Look at the birds, they tell us we're here to be lifted in love, to listen to love as a flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sky, it tells us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the sea, it tells us. We're here to be lifted in love. To listen to love as the children raise all their faces to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the trees, they tell us. We are here to be lifted in love. Look at the birds, they tell us. We're here to be lifted in love. To listen to love as a flower raises its face to the sun. We are all one, here to be lifted in grace and love.
So we are here to be lifted in love, as I said. And part of lifting ourselves in love, finding the grace and the beauty that is all around us every day, is for us through the practice of gratitude. That as a nation, many of us will be entering into this week and thinking a lot about. And part of lifting ourselves in love, part of practicing gratitude for all that is around us, is to open ourselves up to the truth of how things truly are. Now, gratitude is essential for hope for all of us. It's essential to look around and see the beauty that exists, to see what we can build on, to see and find the joy that we can make and bring forth together. But that is just one side of the coin. That is one part of the process. We cannot fully embrace the beauty and the joy and the love that is in our world unless we also make space for grief. Grief is, as anyone who has gone through grief or is going through the lifelong process really of grieving knows, that grief is an essential part of healing, both personal and societal. Whether it is something that you have gone through personally in your life or something that we must grieve for as a community, as a society together. Together, we must grieve our culture's history of violence. We must tell the truth about it because it is the loving thing to do. We must tell the truth for love, not for shame or guilt, as I said before, but for love. James Lowen said, he wrote a book about the truth of Thanksgiving, wrote that the antidote to feel-good history is not feel-bad history, but honest and inclusive history. We all strive in our personal lives, I think, to be honest with the people we love. If we say that we are all one, if we care about each other, we must strive to be honest and authentic with each other if we are going to have authentic relationships with each other, rather than to pretend like something didn't happen, to gaslight the people around us, to pretend like it didn't happen. And so if you love this country, if you say that you love this country, if you love the people in it, we must be honest with each other about what has happened here. So this morning, we're just going to do a little bit of Thanksgiving myth busting before we can move on to the rest of the service. That's what we're trying to do here right now. So here's a little bit of background about the people who are involved in the story. And many of you probably have heard the myth of the story before. Many of us learned it in school. If you grew up here in this country, you probably, I'm not going to repeat the myth because I don't want to. The people in the story, in the myth, are what are often called the Pilgrims, but they were really Puritan religious separatists who came from England. England by way of the Netherlands, I think. And interestingly enough, if you don't know this, the Puritans who came here are actually the forebearers, the ancestors of Unitarian Universalism. You can draw a direct line from the Puritans who came over during this period that we're talking about in the early to mid 1600s to the Unitarian Universalists of today. And so we have to be aware that we have that connection to those people. They are our theological ancestors, but they are also, especially in New England, my first home congregation had been founded in the 1600s, in 1660. And the people who founded that congregation were Puritans. And that is the history of our denomination. It is directly tied to that. So what we know about those people who came over, part of the story is that they were escaping religious persecution, you may have heard. That they wanted to create a shining city on the hill, an example for them to live. They wanted to find their religious freedom. But what is often left out of the story is that those people not only came here for religious freedom, but many of the people who came here were actually investors. They were coming here looking to make money. And it was the religious separatists who didn't have the money, so they had to partner with people who would come over here and start a business, which would have been farming at the time, to send back different crops to make money. And so from the very, very beginning, these people came over here with the goal of making money, of building wealth, by exploiting the land and the people who were in it. And a key part here too that I want us all to know is what they were emboldened by was something called the doctrine of discovery. And this was a decision put out by the Pope in the 1400s that said that any lands that were not occupied by Christian people were open to be taken. And the people on them open to be taken as property as well. That those lands belong to the people who came here to take. And we can also draw a direct line from those people, that mindset of taking, right to the present day in the history of white dominance that exists in this country, exploitation, colonization that existed for 400 years. That has led to decisions like the decision in the Rittenhouse case this past week, where white people with guns feel like they can come in and harm and take lives, take whatever they want. That is the background of Thanksgiving. And the first Thanksgiving was actually Thanksgivings plural. In fact, there were celebrations too of not just of the settlers, of the Puritans who came over and the Native Americans sitting down and having a happy dinner. They were actually a celebration of a military alliance. And part of that military alliance was celebrating the death and destruction of other Native American tribes who had succumbed to plague that was brought over earlier by Europeans as well. In fact, when the Puritans came over, they found that the Wampanoag tribe had been wiped out. About 90% of the people in the Wampanoag tribe had been wiped out by plague. And so this was the land that they were coming into, something that had already been decimated and that would further be decimated. And they created an alliance with each other that became the first of many treaties that for a history of 400 years up into the present day would be broken. Promises would be not kept. And so Native Americans here in this country are still here. The story often tells us that they are not still here, but they are still here. And although in Lancaster, they actually were completely wiped out, there was a full genocide here in Lancaster. The Native Americans here, the Susquehanna, were completely wiped out. Native Americans in many parts of this country are still here. So part of our job, if we are to enter into gratitude, into thanksgiving, is to live with love and to give thanks, not because of the terrible things that have happened, but to learn from this bountiful world that is always around us. That we need not come in and take, but that we must come in and see what is already here for all of us to share. Before the arrival of the Puritans in this land, the Wampanoag and many indigenous tribes held frequent Thanksgiving-like celebrations. And they gave thanks in many ways, in feasts and ceremonial games, for the bounty that is all around us. Now, in Plymouth on this day, the Native Americans there considered Thanksgiving still as a day of mourning. But many of them write that they also celebrate Thanksgiving as well. They celebrate for the bounty of life and the beauty of life. So we must realize that this myth that we came in and that white people came in and destroyed something is true. That there was horrible death and destruction and horrible taking. But that white people were not able to come in and fully destroy the beauty that was here. That endures. That is not something that anyone can ever take away. No violence can truly take that away. That endures. So we must also still celebrate and give thanks and acknowledge and celebrate with the indigenous people today who are still here and who still have gratitude and who still give us an example for how to walk on this earth.
that music carry us into a sense of being grounded in something greater than ourselves. So when I grew up with the myth of Thanksgiving, one thing that I'm kind of sad about now is that I didn't ever think about the indigenous people who are still here today and what they might be doing right now to give thanks. What I might have to learn from their practices of gratitude, and more than that, by a worldview that is so different from the one that I inherited from my beloved ancestors. I know that I carry a piece of truth and meaning with me, but that there's so much more out there. And so I'm sad and mad sometimes that some of the history that I grew up with stopped me from being able to experience the world more fully. And so when I came across a story written by Tracy Sorrell, she wrote this book to share with her son and with the world what her nation, her particular indigenous nation, which is the Cherokee Nation, who lived in the southeastern US, were forced to move to lands within the state of Oklahoma, the Trail of Tears. She wrote this book to share with the world and with her son that she and the Cherokee Nation are here right now, don't only exist in myths of the past, but also in the present. And one thing I love about the book I'm about to share is that this grief and gratitude Reverend Israel was talking about are woven together, all in part of the same thing, in this exploration of thanksgiving. So as we allow our eyes to move over the illustrations, the beauty of the illustrations on this page, which were drawn by the artist from many visits to the Cherokee Nation with the author, I invite you to allow this idea of inherent worth and dignity to come through your eyes and into your body, and to learn from expressions of gratitude within. And for any kids who are listening, you might spot an pileated woodpecker, which lives in the woods of the eastern U.S., including in what is now the Cherokee lands. And so even though this is not a book from the Wampanoag people, in the myth of the original Thanksgiving, it is still one celebration of everyday Thanksgiving. We are grateful. Ojali Hiliga. Cherokee people say Ojali Hiliga to express gratitude. It is a reminder to celebrate our blessings and reflect on struggles, daily, throughout the year, and across the seasons. When cool breezes blow and leaves fall, we say Ojali Hiliga. As shell shakers dance all night around the fire and burnt cedar scent drifts upward during the great new moon ceremony. As we clean our houses, wear new clothes, enjoy a feast, and forget old quarrels to welcome the Cherokee New Year. While we collect buckbrush and honeysuckle to weave baskets to remember our ancestors who suffered hardship and loss on the Trail of Tears. And have hope as our Elisi, grandma, cradles the newest member of the family and reveals his Cherokee name. Gola, winter. As bears sleep deep and snow blankets the ground, we say Ojali Hiliga, while elders share stories and we savor buttery bean bread and steamy hominy soup. When we feed our animal and bird friends, as older children teach the younger ones how to make corn husk dolls and play cane flutes, while we gather to remember an uncle who has passed on. As men cuddle babies and sing traditional lullabies in Jaligi, Cherokee. Gogegi, spring. When showers fill streams and shoots spring up, we say Ojali Hiliga. while men sing, asking for thunder and lightning's protection of the emerging sprouts that women tend. As we gather wild onions, spring's first food, and serve them with hen's eggs. As we practice patience to sew pucker toe moccasins and coil clay to build beautiful pots. As we plant ani, strawberries, an ancestral story's sweet-smelling reminder not to argue with each other. As we embrace a clan relative, heading off to serve our country. Gogi, summer. As the crops mature and the sun scorches, we say Ojali Haliga when we grasp our gigs and wade into the cool creek to catch crawdads for supper. As we sink our teeth into the season's first harvest at the green corn ceremony. While we click-clack sticks, chase a small ball, and fling it high at the stick-ball game pole. When we recall the ancestors' sacrifices to preserve our way of life. To celebrate Nulista Nidolo history and listen to our tribal leaders speak at Cherokee National Holiday. Every day, every season. O Jali Heliga, we are grateful. What gratitude practices are coming up in your heart, in your body today?
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the sun in the sky. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the clouds so high. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the whispering wind. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the birds in the spring. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the moonlit night. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the stars so bright. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the wonder in me. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the way I feel. Thanks for the animals. Thanks for the land. Thanks for the people everywhere. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all I've got. Thanks for all I've got.
Nico, if you're watching, that song was for you. So why gratitude? Gratitude because there has always been a need for people to build up strength and resilience, to feast, even though they know that a lean period may be approaching, to give thanks for the bounty that is all around us, even though we know that out there, and sometimes even in here, life is challenging and difficult, and the world is scary and cruel. Gratitude because life is too short not to find the beauty in it. Gratitude because we need to build up strength for what we will face, separately and together. I bring us some wisdom from a woman named Anastasia Skiumtalks McAllister. She is a member of the Confederated Tribes of Colville Indians. She usually just goes by Skiumtalks. And she says that of gratitude, that it is reclaiming tradition, that it is part of decolonization even, that it is an ongoing process like grieving. And she goes on to say that I try to tell people as much as possible that I have a native name. And maybe it doesn't mean anything to you, but it means everything to me. My name means that my family survived. My family survived disease. My family survived Catholicism. My family survived settler colonialism. These are still her words. They survived. I survived. My existence is resistance. So gratitude, my friends, I propose for us today is a form of resistance to the injustice in the world. It is countercultural to practice gratitude in a capitalist, consumerist culture. In an economy, in a culture that tells us that we need to compete and go out and find and take and harm others, climb over others, take from others. It is countercultural in a society that tells us that the strongest, most dominant will survive, will prevail. It is countercultural to practice gratitude and find abundance in what is already here. It is countercultural to practice gratitude at a moment when we are about to enter into a holiday season that tells us that we need to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. And I'm sure I will go to the supermarket and buy a lot of fancy food and cheese and stuff like that for the holiday too. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily, but gratitude is also a way for us to find our commonality. And one nice piece of history, I think, about the history of Thanksgiving is that Abraham Lincoln actually declared the first official Thanksgiving during the Civil War. And he was trying to use it as a way to unite a divided country, to create a nice unity story. Even though it was based in a false narrative, it was still intended to be a story of unity. Now, who is included in that story of unity is another question. But my point being that gratitude, that this time of year is about seeking our commonality when we practice gratitude, to return to the basics. Give thanks for the little things. Realize that there is more that unites us than divides us at the fundamental level. Realize that we can, all of us, no matter what our background, be grateful for the sun in the sky and the moon in the sky in the night, the soft, gentle, cooling breezes in the summer and the warmth of a fire in the winter. If we can afford a fire, of course. That we can, all of us, at some fundamental level, no matter how difficult and painful our lives are, can be grateful for life itself. That we can, all of us, search for beauty and miracles all around us. And of course, gratitude makes us realize too, the commonality of the fragility that we all share. For it reminds us of how fragile life is. Like all mindfulness practices, gratitude is a mindfulness practice. It reminds us how we are interconnected, how we need we need other people and animals and plants and the earth to eat, to live, to survive, that we are all bound to each other inextricably. And then we have the responsibility to leave a legacy for others. A legacy of a world that is better off than the way we found it. And so at the end of the day, gratitude is about something bigger than ourselves. Being thankful and seeing ourselves as connected to something larger than the sum of our parts. Larger than even this generation who is alive and walking on this earth today. Larger than people. That gratitude is a practice of feeling connected, bound to, responsible to the 7 generations that come after us. That comes from many Native American practices. That is something we can learn today. And so how do we practice gratitude? Well, I offer us the wisdom of Swiftwater, who is a member of the Lenape Native peoples, who actually originally come from this area, from, I think, stretching down from somewhere in upstate New York, down through New Jersey, and even over slightly to the Susquehanna Valley. When asked how to celebrate gratitude, Swiftwater said, let's start with the people who we love. We start with the people who we love and those who love us. Thankful they are in our lives, obliging us to open our hearts. Let open our hearts and embrace the earth, the sea and the soil and the stars, and be blessed by bold beauty, the bounty of being. And then with hearts open to beauty, let us embrace the arts and the generation of learning, that we should have wisdom, And let what wisdom we have lead us to strive so that the 7th generation hence can live more fully. It is in that work and that work alone that we can express our thankful spirit. So for the opening, to make it so, let us be truly grateful. Let us strive, my friends, so that the 7th generation hence can live more fully. Let us be grateful that we have the opportunity in this life to make our world more just and more loving and more beautiful in the way that we found it. Let us focus not on the things that bog us down, but on the ways that we can come together to overcome them. So I have our complex truths ritual at the end of our service today, because I wanted you all to be thinking the whole time about the complex truths of life, about the joy and the sorrow and the pain that are all around us. And so I invite you, this is the time that I'm going to invite you to express your joys, sorrows, and complex truths. But I also have an additional invitation for you. And it is an invitation to express, or at least to think about, gratitude as it lives in yourself. Not as just being grateful for simple little things, which is amazing. That is part of this practice, but also to think about gratitude as a way that your body or your history, our lives are deeply connected to those who come after us. So I ask, what is something that we are grateful for, that we cherish and love, that you can commit yourself to help to preserve for future generations? Or perhaps it is not something that must be preserved, but something that must be transformed and carried forth. So I invite you to think about that. And if you feel moved to type it into the chat, please do so. And for all of us, I invite you to also type in your joy, sorrow, or complex truth that you carry on your heart that you need this community to share, to hold, to process, or make sense of. Type these things into the chat in 10 words or less, and we'll read them aloud for you and place a stone in our bowl, in our well of community. And of course, you don't have to type into the chat. You can just hold it in your heart too.
For the complicated gift of our beloved community and our collaborative mission to myth bust.
For all of these things that we hold, this is a very full bowl today. That's a beautiful thing. For all of the joy, the sorrow, the pain, the gratitude, the hope, and the love. All of these things that we carry in our hearts together as a community, as individuals, all of these things that coexist together, that are part of what it means to be alive and human and breathing. I place this final shell into our bowl, into our well, so that you know, all of you, that we are held, you are held and seen and loved and celebrated in this community. For all of these things, I ask us, for what exactly shall we give thanks? For you and your hopes and your dreams and your joys and your sorrows. For this moment here together. For friends and loved ones, far and near. For laughter, for beauty, for the sun and the moon and the stars in the sky. For the ancient and incredible wisdom of trees, standing tall and proud, stretching themselves into the sky, teaching us when it's time to let go and when it's time to spring forth. For the joyful voices of children, for the wisdom of elders, for the wisdom of children, and the joy inherited from elders. For our just actions that bless the world, and for the love that calls us on to make a difference for one another and for the next 7 generations. For love and legacy, for joy and sorrow, for life itself. My friends, for all of it, for you, all of us, go and give thanks.
You're my life, you're my breath, you're a smile, you're my guest. You're the earth, you're the sun, you're the grass, you are love. You're my hands, you're a bug, you're my eyes, you're a hug. You're the light in the dark, you're the spark, you are fun. You're my mom, you are water, you're the stars, you're my daughter. You're my friend till the end, you're my dreams, you're my father. You're the ants on the ground, the miracles that surround. I'm feeling it all around, the hemisphere in the clouds. You're my pain, you're my sorrow, you're my hope for tomorrow. You're the strength when I'm hollow, you're the path that I follow. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss. The gift to realize that everything
all
is a
that
gift.
I am, all that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all, for it all. Grateful for
stop to take a bow and keep moving forward and start looking towards your heart. It'll open all the doors and only then you'll start to hear the world singing chorus with your mind and heart. Aligned in purpose, everything will feel gorgeous.
All that I see, all that I've been, and all that I'll ever be is a blessing. It's so amazing, and I'm grateful for it all.
Every day I sit and pray, cause what I have is more than I deserve or could ever imagine. How do I give back to all of this magic and spread the love so everybody can have it? Doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor, if I got a family or if I'm all alone. Bad things happen, I can just complain and moan, but there's a million things that I can be grateful for.
So I lift up my hands now, and I open my heart, and my gratitude goes out to everything near and far. All that I am,
Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I look deep down and feel all the blessings. Everything I am and everything I see, everything I hope and everything I dream, everything I feel and everything I be. I'm grateful for it all. It's amazing. You're the blessings that exist, the small things that are bliss, the gift to realize that everything is a gift.
We now take an offering as an outward expression of our interdependence. You can support our work as you are able by texting the amount of your donation to the number on the screen, or through the Contribute tab on our website at uuclonline.org. You can also find it in the chat here. Thank you.
we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here and those far away, for this food we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for those gathered here far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.